Clark County School Board of Trustees meeting to order. It would be May 13th, 2025. If you all would please stand and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alrighty. First item would be the approval of the agenda as presented. Board, I'd like to move that we approve that. If I could please have a second. Second. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Understanding. The next would be the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting, and I've read those, and I'd like to move we approve those as well. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. Okay. I don't believe we have any public comments on agenda items. The next issue we would have the major funds monitoring report. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good evening, board. Tonight in your package, you will see that I prepared the major fund monitoring report. This is the major funds that we will be talking about through the budget that will be coming up soon as the year budget season. In the education fund, quickly noted, is the getting balance for March is $17,204,000. We're running better than we were March of 24 at $15,023,000, so that's a good thing. In our operations fund, remember this is the fund that we deplete because we will get our money in June. I always remind that of everyone. This year we're ending March at $2.9 million. Last March we ended at $1,098,000. So we're doing quite well with how we're able to build our cash balance, so that will carry us until the June when we get our distributions. Our debt service this year is $5.3 million. Last March was $4.1 million. That's the cash balance that we built to put in there to handle any additional fees that may come along with any bonding and the ending of when debt service finally goes away someday. Then we won't have to levy as much money at the very end. And then finally, our rainy day. Last year, we made March at $10.1 million. This year, we're at $12,030,000. Again, the rainy day is important. In this fund and our operations fund, we were going to pay a lot of attention to through the budget season. If there's any questions, I would be happy to entertain those. And mind you, since it's the end of the quarter, I will be probably, I will be going through all the reports I submit to you monthly, other than just speaking about the monitoring report.
Board, are we good? Or do we have any questions? All right. Treasurer's fund cash balance, please.
And this is the detail of all funds. You will see on the monitoring report, because the state has mandated us to combine those two of education fund and curriculum materials on our system, I track them separately so you can see them separately. So in the education fund, in March this year, we ended with $12 million. If you refer back to your fund monitoring report, it was $11 million last year. So I do break it down on the fund monitoring report. And our curriculum materials now are $4.7 million, and last year was $3.7 million. So we get about $1.5 million on average from the state in our curriculum materials. There are some changes coming to that where we no longer have to report any fees since we don't charge any fees. So that'll be a nice gift that we did receive from the legislation. We've been reporting so much of that. When they prepare the appropriations for curriculum materials, they should simply take all the students that are counted in ADM for all school districts and divide that into the appropriations and distribute that out to the schools. We qualify for about $1.5 million. We will be anticipating some adoptions this next year in 2 subjects. The other that I do want to kind of show you is we will be talking about our school lunch fund here in a little detail. I do want to take you down to the self-insurance fund, which is 1110. If you see that, it's the self-insurance fund. We are at $7.1 million. The recommended cash balance is to be three months worth of claims, which which runs about 3 to 4 million for us, give or take. So this is, we make sure we take care of this fund, because remember, we don't want it to go too low. We don't, the district has been very conscious approval to take care of their teachers, not just in salary, but in benefits. Okay, so we made that commitment to them. And when we do take care of benefits, it does affect all of those who participate in the benefit plan. So we're really proud of this balance here. This can run up or down depending on the claims. This just indicates to me that we're pretty healthy right now, so I want everybody to stay healthy. Other than that, there's not much more here. The rest are grants that are, most are reimbursables, and you will see if you have a question about, anything you see here, construction reimbursables, I do get that, you'll do a resolution when we've done all of the resolution we've done in the past, that when we do ask for the borrowing, that we do reimburse us back, because we are working towards getting all of these projects done. So that's what those stand for. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
We good? Okay.
If nothing, I may move on to the bond activity report.
Please.
Bond activity report, we're being real diligent on trying to spend our older bonds on the projects. These would be like interest that was left over and those kind of things. So we're able to go and do things for those areas. Bond money is only spent on the areas that defined in the projects. So for example, Franklin Square. So any money that's in a Franklin Square bond goes to use for Franklin Square. One of the things that we're waiting on, we have to be patient, because the product coming in always seems to take forever, and then you have to wait for the right time. So we're going to be putting the canopies over those playgrounds. That's one of the expense that we've been wanting for a while, and it's pretty good size of money. So, but we have to wait until the weather allows us to do so. So that's an example of what we do with our bond interest. We invest in those buildings. If you see through here, we have a lot of activity going on with all of the projects that we've been doing that are currently, in progress. We have the 2 elementaries that are near end. We're hoping that weather cooperates with us and continues. There'll be a lot of outside work still going on. The building will be ready. So, and then invited to the groundbreaking for the middle school. So we'll start that process. We've approved that project, so we should be working on getting those bonds in to start handling those expenses. We are replacing our roofs. Now, let me remind you that Jeff High, for example, does need roof replacement. And it is impossible to tear an entire roof off and put it on while the kids are out just in the summer. So we do it in sections. So we're accomplishing, some of those sections. So we'll continue to do that as outlined in our facilities needs. We do that when we can, to allow those times to be done. We do a lot of it when they're in school, but we're very conscious of what's going on. The principals of these schools communicate with our construction crew. There's ideal times of testing, so we kind of get our schedule in through that. Our paving, we've done a really good job on that. Our assessment, our next one is our assessment. We have an assessment for our sidewalks and our curbing, so that's in the plan. So that'll be coming in the next plan. So we do have those things that we're doing through the process. Tonight you're having your hearing on that next plan to do roofs as well, and our HVAC and our sidewalks. I think so. We have to maintain them. So those haven't been maintained in a while. So that's why it's on the plan that their potholes all taken care of first. So we're good with that. But
just to give the board a little perspective, and Chris Gunther may have to answer this. What's the cost of redoing the whole roof at Jeff High?
Oh my gosh.
But what I thought you told us a couple years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, it's like $14 million.
Just that we probably have between $9 to $10 million left
Okay.
still. We've done several sections. Yeah, so yeah, it's about 14. And that was several years ago.
That's one school in Greater Clark that just to redo that roof is $14 million.
Correct.
So, and, you know, we have a lot of large-sized schools, you know, you just drive by River Valley, you know, they're gonna need attention, so, as we do these roofs, especially on new construction, we work in the warranty time frame for the replacement time. So if we get a building done this year, and it has, we want, everybody knows that the envelope of a building is the most important, right? That protects everything that you put inside of it. So we have a 35-year warranty on our roofs. So the next year when another building is done, 35 years, so it's not all in 1 year. You see, the first one would come first, the second one come next. So that way, whoever would be, you know, working on these buildings for 35 years, guarantee it won't be me. I'm not sure if I'll make it that long, but they wouldn't walk into a job high needing an entire roof and every building in the district needing some kind of repair on the roof. So we're very strategically working that plan out, along with our replacement plan for like paving. We don't want to get so far so it costs so much. We want to make sure we do preventative maintenance and we maintain these so that way in due time the increased cost isn't taken on by the district. Additionally, we do have technology obligations, our security obligations that we're doing in these. These work very hard on making sure that our camera systems are current and up to date. Our fire systems, I mean, there's a lot to it. Our fire systems, fire extinguishers. You think about a huge building, just think about Jeff High. I mean, how many fire extinguishers we have to maintain and service, and they have to be inspected. Our HVAC, now, there is where we really, that's good clean air. We've invested a lot of time in that, and we specialize in making sure that we're taking care of preventing those. But again, any questions, I'd be happy to answer that.
Any questions? Okay, now the good stuff, food service.
All right, this is good stuff. Just a note to the board, we're currently in the bid process of awarding a bid to a food service provider. So we had the state of Indiana requires food service providers from the Division of Nutrition must bid their contracts every 5 years. And then every year thereafter, you can come with a renewal every year. And so we do have a team in this morning, and the information they provided in these books are like this. So I was hoping to have that answer by tonight, but we are taking good time to read to make sure that we're very responsible. Our current provider is Aramark. If you remember, this fund was $600,000 in the hole. The food service director, Beverly, came in, and now you're going to see where we're at. So this speaks volumes on that performance that Aramark does for you. On top of the fact that we have witnessed what they do for our kids. I, for sure, was on a judging panel at Charlestown High for Top Chef. Well, that food was delicious. So they're teaching our kids how to cook, and that's fantastic to me. As much as this morning, that dish that they made for us, that won, the team that won, was provided to our students this morning in Charlestown High. So I would have went over and take that in this morning, but I didn't have time. But anyhow. So looking at the food service account, we, in the past, you were required to keep 3 months' worth of expenses, and then any cash over that must be committed to investing into the buildings and the cafeteria area for our students. Now the rule has changed at 6 months. I monitor both ways because we made our financial plan initially off the 3 month because we started this 5-year plan 5 years ago, you know. And so I start there, and now I make sure that we still comply with the 6-month regulation. We don't have to keep 6 months. The reason you put a 6-month in is that way if you don't have plans to replace, then you don't have to tell the state that you have plans to replace. Well, in either case, as you can clearly tell, we are going to invest into our cafeterias. So as it stands at the end of March this year, at the 6-month mark, you have $1.8 million over that can be invested right back into our kids, which is the food services division. We ended up the balance at $5 million on March 25. If there's any questions on that, I'd be happy to answer that.
I don't think so.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now the Parkwood Elementary update. Good to see you. Good evening.
Thank you. Good to be back. I'll let Renee drive this. Chris Pinkman with Hagerman Construction Board. I appreciate the staff the opportunity to present to you tonight where we are at Parkwood Elementary. I know we've got a drone footage that we can click on. Okay. There we go.
Blur.
Again, appreciate it. We're working on Parkwood Elementary. As you can see, the old school's in the front, the new school's in the back. Let's talk about roof. There's a lot of roof on this project. You can see perfection of the team that's working on that. As you can see, the steel frame on the beginning of the front of the building to the side. Brick is going up around the other side of the building. It's going to be a pretty building tonight. Just can't quite see it behind it. The whole part of it. So you're getting ready to. And it's nice to have green grass, but then again, as much rain as we've had, everybody's got green grass. We do have a couple other slides in there. The brick is going up. Obviously on the exterior, we've got metal panels that'll be coming up here in the next couple of weeks. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, we're just slowly getting that thing together. Obviously the rain slowed us down a couple of weeks ago, but we're getting caught up. Obviously the roof is being done. I think it's almost complete. I'm looking at Chris, but I bet he doesn't know. But I'm pretty sure it's getting close. And then interior, our guys are in there. I know all the HVAC, all the MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing on the first floor has been roughed in. We're just waiting on the inspectors to come and say thumbs up, and then we'll start drywall. So we are making good progress on that. That's still the first floor. As you can see, there's still windows and everything that's got to be done. Second floor is framed up. It's the same thing. Our mechanical, electrical plumbers, and everybody will start roughing everything in, and then once the inspectors come in and say thumbs up, yes, we'll start doing all of that. So all the stairs have been installed. You guys can read this. The MEP and fire alarm, HVAC, everything has been completed. As I said earlier, drywall they think is going to begin, and I think we put this together, so probably next week. And then all the concrete has been poured. The brick is underway. It's over 50% complete, and as you can imagine, this nice weather that we've had, they keep rolling along, and then all the metal siding. So it'll really take shape when that metal siding comes in, because it'll start seeing the colors that'll pop. So we are still looking at certificate of occupancy for the end of May of 2026, so nobody gets confused. This is the end of the week. And then we're going to tear down the old school. The plan is to do that on Christmas or whatever holiday break that is, Christmas break, whatever you want to call it. That will be so that, oh, no, I'm sorry. When school lets out, We'll
Yes.
demo, yeah, school lets out, we'll demo, and then we'll finish the site work when everybody's gone for Christmas.
No,
Yeah.
we will be demoing we'll start demoing almost the next day after school's out.
Yeah, and actually, I think Nate's ready to start now, so. Not quite.
We got a lot of pieces. I'm very impressed with what they've been able to accomplish so far. I mean, the building looks amazing. I've walked up on the second floor, walked throughout the building. It's coming together very, very quickly on a very congested and tight site.
And I think we've got the neighbors happy, which is the biggest thing for school board members, that nobody's getting any phone calls, but I know between making sure we're getting the streets clean, anything, deliveries that come in, we're trying to make sure we do all that. We've been working with your principal quite a bit, making sure everybody, we're out of the parents' way and all the school buses, but more than anything, your neighbors. I know they probably weren't real happy when we tore out all those bushes, but that was your property, so we need to clear it up.
We haven't heard of Pete. I have not heard of Pete. And that'll open up the backside. That gives us better line of sight, keeps our students protected, and we'll actually have a better fence line on the backside as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, appreciate it very much. All right, next item would be the consent agenda. Board, do I have a motion for the approval?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second? Okay. Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstaining. Okay.
Before you move on, I just want to recognize a couple people in the room. First, our new special ed director, Christy Charbonneau, is here. Welcome back for another meeting. And then also two new supervisors in special education. Amanda Ogle will join us as a supervisor, and Stephanie Segura will also join us as a supervisor for special education. So welcome to Greater Clark.
Thanks very much. She's done. Okay, the next item would be gifts to buildings. Would anyone care to visit gifts to buildings? Mr. Freeman, would you want to do that?
Well, let me get there.
I know. That's not, I left you out of it.
There we go, found it. All right, let's see here. We have a gift from Greater North Clark Healthcare for $1,700. We also have that's for Charleston High School. Jefferson High School received quite a few donations. One in particular from Welby Edwards for $1,000. Greater North Clark Healthcare Foundation also contributed to donated to Washington High School. $2,768 for the athletics department, and also River Valley Middle School has more than a few donations to its theater department. I motion that we accept these donations as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Do I have a second, please? Thank you, Chelsea. Any questions or comments? Okay, that's great. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstaining. Okay, at this time, I believe Superintendent Lautner would like to say something. We're going to segue into a public hearing, but I think prior to that.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Buckwalter. Before we start hearing, I want to say a few words, and actually you may think it's a few more words than I should say probably after I get done, because I do have quite a few things to say about this next project and the hearing that we're going to have here in a few minutes. Because, you know, I think it's important to reflect back on where we were, where we are now, and where we're going. Okay, when I walked in the door as superintendent 6.5 years ago, our education fund was in the red. Our operations fund was in the red. Our food service fund was in the red. Our self-insurance fund was in the red. Our teacher pay was only at $40,000 a year starting pay. Okay, and as you saw from what Laura presented, all that has been turned around. Okay, we now meet the state criteria of having 10% cash balance in the education fund, the operations fund, the self-insurance fund, the food service fund, and our teachers now make $50,000 a year starting pay instead of 40. You know, so we've done the work, we've done the planning. But one of the other things that we walked into was the condition of our facilities was very, very poor. Okay, that's one of the first things that hit me. I knew this because I was a principal of the district, but when I became superintendent, it became my issue to deal with, and these people's issue to deal with immediately. And one of the things that hit me was just how bad the situation was. When I first took over as superintendent, I had 2 architects tell me that Greater Clark, and this is back in 2019, had the worst group of elementary schools in terms of facility conditions than any district in the state of Indiana. That's what I was told by 2 different architects who had reviewed them, looked at them, did feasibility studies, and I agree with them. I mean, you walk through them, it's not hard to see that they were right. You know, so I think it's important to reflect on where we've been, where we're at now, where we're going, you know, that we have a plan in place. We've been working and executing that plan, and we want to continue to execute that plan. We haven't, this district has not, over the last 6 years, haphazardly just thrown projects together and decided, oh, I guess we'll do this, you know, next year we'll do this. There's been a plan from the get-go on what we needed to do. And I'm going to go through some of that with you. I think it's important to go back and look at 6 years ago, we walked into the situation. The first thing that we did as a district, Laura was part of this, the rest of the team over there at the school board, was order 3 different studies to be done. One was a facility study that was done by Lancer plus Beebe, who reviewed every one of our facilities and everything, engineering, mechanicals, structure, roofing, HVAC, everything. The other study that was done was a demographic study by Jerry McKibben that looked at what is the growth going to be in the Greater Clark County School District in this area. The third study that was done was policy analytics study, which looks at your tax base and how is your tax base going to grow, you know, and what will it support, especially when you're investing in facility projects. Those 3 studies were done. They were very detailed studies. We got some great information with that, with all 3 studies. The next thing we did is put together a task force, a facility task force. Then we're going back 5-6 years here. There were 50 community members on that task force. And they were tasked with the job of looking over all that information from those 3 studies. And the other thing we asked them to do is look over this information and come up with a priority list of projects you think we should do as a district. And that's what they did. And then I think it was, what, 3 or 4 meetings, 4 hours, 4 meetings, and they were all 3 or 4 hours long, that they came up with this priority list. It wasn't us sitting up here, it wasn't me, it wasn't anybody sitting over there. It was community members, 50 community members that decided, here's what needs to be done in Greater Clark facilities. It is very diverse. We had people from Clarksville because of Parkwood. We had people from New Washington, Charlestown, and Jeff, from everywhere. Okay, so after they put that priority list together, we then created our first original 5-year facility plan. And I'm going to go through some of that here in a second. Okay, but before we proceeded forward, one of the things that was very important to the board and myself and Laura, being the CFO, is that we try to do these projects and not negatively impact the taxpayer. Okay, and so when you look at what we've done over the last 5 or 6 years, whether it's the new school you just saw at Parkwood, the Charlestown Elementary School, the Pike Elementary School, the natatorium that's being built, we have not added taxes to the taxpayer. We've done these projects without adding additional taxes to the taxpayer. Okay, and I will explain why those projects were done and why they were done in the order they were done. But that was very important. So we sat down with our facility plan after we laid out that original one with Stiefel, who is our bond underwriter, also Thomas Peterson, who is our attorney for facility projects, and tried to lay out a path to where we could take care of our facility issues and transform our facilities from being very much a negative to a positive over a 5, 6, 7 year period. And the reason we wanted to do it over a 5, 6, 7 year period was so that we didn't negatively impact the taxpayers. Okay, and we followed through on that promise. We haven't negatively impacted the taxpayers. Okay, so some people say, we have a plan. Well, we have plans. Some people say, well, were these projects really necessary? This seems like a bit much. I will tell you based on the facility study, based on the priority list that task force came up, yes, they were very necessary. Okay, some of these older schools were costing us a fortune to maintain and fix. So it was very necessary. And I'm going to go through some of these projects that we started out with going back 5, 6 years ago. You know, and other people will ask, well, why did you do a referendum? Well, we didn't do a referendum because a referendum, when it is passed, goes outside of the tax caps. That means everybody pays, even if you're at the tax caps. We didn't want to make anybody have to pay extra money or add additional taxes to outside of the tax cap. So that's why we haven't done a referendum, because we knew, because of the growth in this area with the number of new homes, the number of new apartments, that we could do this work and not bring additional taxes to the community, which we've done. Okay, so let's look at some of these projects. You go back 5 or 6 years ago, one of the first things we worked on were the football fields and tracks at Jeff High and Charlestown High School. Well, why did we do that? Well, we did that because the Jeffersonville High School and Charlestown High School bleachers were about ready to be condemned. The buildings underneath those bleachers were already condemned and backing up sewer. Okay? The last thing we needed was 2,500 people to be at a football game at Jeff High and the bleachers collapsed. Okay? So we had to address it, we did. Okay? The next item was the transportation facility. Our former transportation facility, when I took over as superintendent, was being run out of an 80-year-old biscuit factory down in Jeffersonville, in deplorable conditions for our transportation staff and our drivers. And that needed to be fixed, so we fixed it. Okay? There are also OSHA violations that we are being written up on because of the conditions down there. Okay, next item, let's look at Pike Elementary. It's getting ready to open in July. We're going to have a community walkthrough on July 15th. Why did we do Pike Elementary? Well, when you look at the two schools that are right there close to Pike Elementary, Wilson Elementary is almost 70 years old. TJ Elementary is almost 60 years old. And they're within 3 miles of each other. And the best, most responsible, fiscally responsible thing we could do as a district was to merge those two schools together, because it would be more efficient. And also, when you talk to the architects and talk about the cost to renovate each one of those buildings up to the standard, it was going to be more than what it cost to build a new school. The other thing was, well, why didn't you just build a new school on the Wilson site and build a new school on the TJ site? Well, if we would have done that, it would have cost the district $20 million more than what it's costing us to build Pike Elementary.
Is that next to Wilson?
Yes. So that wouldn't have been efficient either. So we feel like we did the right thing here by merging those two schools together, building a new school. Okay, let's look at Charlestown Elementary. Charlestown Elementary is replacing JJ and PR, and it's the same deal. Okay, Charlestown Elementary, or JJ Elementary is almost 70 years old. Pleasant Ridge Elementary is a little over 50 years old. Both of them are in very, very bad condition, and it was going to cost more to renovate both buildings than it was to build a new building. If we would have tried to build a new building on each site, it was going to be at least $20, $25 million more than what it's costing to build Charlestown Elementary. Then let's look at Parkwood. You just saw that. You know, great progress, looks great. Very similar situation. Parkwood Elementary is, I believe, a little over 60 years old, in very bad condition, in a very bad blueprint or floor plan. And once again, to renovate that building, it was going to cost more to renovate it than build new. So with that building, you know, we felt like it was time. As a matter of fact, I will tell you, and I'm going to be very honest, I know our previous superintendent, and I know Teresa, you were on the board with our previous superintendent, I believe about 10 years ago, tried to get it through to build a new elementary school there. Okay? And let me explain to you the cost of not getting this done 10 years ago. Because this wasn't done 10 years ago, we're paying at least $10 million more to do it today. Because it was pushed off and delayed and delayed and delayed. So the people that pushed back on that cost the district $10 million in extra cost just for that one school because of what's going on with inflation over the last 5, 6, 7 years. Now the next project, the natatorium. Okay, when we started, and this was a project that the task force was very adamant about. They wanted us to fix the pool at Charlestown High School, or Charlestown Middle School, I'm sorry, which when I walked in as a superintendent was sitting empty and had a bunch of furniture stacked in it, okay, at Charlestown Middle School. But the task force wanted us to fix that pool and also fix Jeff Highs and do something with it. Okay, so we went ahead and fixed Charlestown Middle Schools. It's up, running, and very nice. It's about a $2.5 million renovation about 4 years ago. I think it was 5 years ago. Okay, and then we commissioned a study to be done by Fanning Howie, who are the architects, to look at the current Jeff High pool and also look at what it would cost to build a new pool. Okay, they did that study. It took them about 6 months, I think. Okay, they reported back to us that if you wanted to try to renovate the old pool into the standard that's needed today, and by that I mean a 10-lane pool, a diving well, all the HVAC, all the things that go along with that, it was going to be a $30 million expense to try to renovate a 50-some-year-old pool. Okay, so the recommendation was that if you're going to do something, you may as well build a new pool. Okay, if you're going to spend that money, that kind of money. Okay, so that's the direction we headed. The one reason was because of that cost to renovate the old pool, but the main reason was building a new pool was going to be cost efficient. It also allowed us to add locker room space, concession stand space for the football program, the soccer program, and the track and field program. A lot of people don't understand that it's not just a pool. There's actually going to be locker rooms for the football team, the soccer team, the track team, and a concession stand that serves both the pool and the football stadium and the track. Okay. And I will say this about the auditorium. I mean, that's going to be a great addition to this district. It's not only going to help our kids, it's going to help this region. That's going to bring in 300 or 400 kids every weekend that'll stay in the hotels in this area, eat at the restaurants in this area, and be in this community using that pool. It also allows us to really build out some neat things for our students. I mean, one of the goals we've already talked about having is making sure every Greater Clark County student that wants to learn to swim, we find a way to make sure that they get the opportunity to learn to swim, get swim lessons. So we're thrilled with that project and when it gets done. Next project, and we're still rolling along on the 5-year facility plan. Okay, and going back in time, we created that initial 5-year plan, but we also said that it would be a rolling 5-year plan. Once we were finished with 1 year, we would add another year to the back end. Because I didn't want this district to ever get in a situation like what I walked into, which quite frankly, facility-wise, was a mess. Okay, that's what I walked into. And with a rolling 5-year facility plan, I hope long after I'm gone, this district continues to do that, and plan ahead. But the next item was Founders Point Elementary. Okay, we know that once Charlestown Pike is finished, the expansion of lanes and all that, we already know that there's probably going to be around 2,000 to 25 new homes in that area. Okay, just in that Salem Noble corridor, Charlestown Pike, they're going to be John's neighbors, out in that area, by King Road. So we knew that we needed a school out there because we also know Charlestown's growing. So the genesis of that whole project is we know that we're going to have to relieve some enrollment off Charlestown Elementary. We're going to have to relieve some enrollment off Utica Elementary, and we're going to have to relieve some enrollment off Pike Elementary because of all the growth that's going to happen out there. So that's why we're doing that project out there. And I applaud the board for thinking forward and really planning ahead for what's coming. And then the next one is River Ridge Middle School. Okay, we're going to have the groundbreaking next Thursday, May 22nd. We're going to have the groundbreaking, start construction on that middle school. The construction on Founders Point is going to start in September. Okay, both those projects have been approved. We're moving forward. River Ridge, okay, we've talked about that project for about 3 years now and worked with the city to finally get that approved and go on with the zoning. Essentially, River Ridge in the short term is going to replace Parkview Middle School. I was the principal at Parkview Middle School for 7 years. I left there in 2012, went to Charlestown High School, was up at Charlestown High School for 7 years. Parkview Middle School was in terrible condition in 2012 when I left there. Today, it's in even worse condition, okay? So this River Ridge Middle School, in the short term, will replace Parkview. Now, long term, when it's time for us to do something on that Parkview site, we will, when it's needed as far as enrollment growth. Okay, so we're not going to abandon that Parkview site, but short term, once River Ridge is done, the Parkview kids will go up to River Ridge, and that's will be their home until we need to do something at the Parkview site. But it's a project that's sorely needed. When you look at, I believe Parkview Middle School was constructed in 1961. So who's good in math? How 63? Yeah. So, and now we come to what we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. The Charles County High School classroom expansion and the hearing that we're going to have. I will tell you, when I was at Charlestown High School, I left in 2019 to come here to be a superintendent. We had about 725, 730 students every year at Charlestown High School. The expected enrollment next year at Charlestown High School is 930 students. Okay? It's almost a 200 student increase in a matter of 5 years, 5 to 6 years. Okay, the current capacity of Charlestown High School, max capacity, is about 950 to 1,000 students. That's as many kids as you're going to really squeeze in there. Okay, because I've been there, I've lived it, I know how many rooms are open right now. You know, you put 1,000 students in there, they're going to be maxed out there. Okay. When you look at projected enrollment over the next 3 to 5 years, Charlestown High School will easily be somewhere between 1,100 and 1,200 students in 3 to 5 years. When you look at projected enrollment in 5 to 8 years, you're talking about probably 1,300 to 1,400 students at Charlestown High School. And the reason I say that is because I talked to the mayor of Charlestown, Trigo Hodges, and also Tony Jackson, the building commissioner, Monday morning, just to get an accurate number. The reason I say that in terms of the projected enrollment at Charlestown High School is they confirmed what I thought, is that over the next 5 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years, there are already over 1,500 homes platted, approved, and apartments that are platted, approved, or are currently being built just in the Charlestown Attendance District. So over 1,500 homes. That's what we're going to get out there in the next 5 to 7 years. And that doesn't include future developments. And you know there's going to be more coming because there's so much open land out there. So there's no doubt in my mind the growth is coming to Charlestown. And we need to respond and react to that, what's coming, and not be behind the situation. I will tell you, based on the National Builders Association, or Home Builders Association, typically they project for every 100 homes built, it produces 41 student-age children. Apartments is more than that. It's usually about 50 kids when you build for every 100 apartments. And let's say we're in a world of school choice here. Parents can take their child wherever they want. Let's say Greater Clark only gets 90% of the building. Some go to charter, some go to the voucher, private, whatever, homeschool, whatever. Okay, that's still between 600 and 700 new kids in Charlestown alone. Okay, school-age kids. So we're trying to project forward and stay ahead of this and not work from behind because we know it's coming. We know Dan Christianity is going to build 700 residences out there in that development he's building. We know Skipper's Ridge, right across from the state park, Charlestown State Park, is going to be over 300 homes. I live in between Charlestown and Jeff. There's still 150 lots to build on in Heritage Place where I live. They're Danbury Oaks. They're still building there. I mean, it's coming. And it's only going to, once interest rates drop, it's only going to escalate and speed up. So I would tell you, as a district, I don't think we should delay this. I think we should have the hearings. We should move forward. This project will be no different than what we've already done in terms of we don't plan on adding additional taxes to our community or to our taxpayers. We haven't done that yet. We don't plan on doing that with this project. And so I've talked quite a bit, but I think it's something we need to move forward with and get approved and start planning. I will tell you just the details on the project. We're looking at adding classrooms, cafeteria space, bathrooms, and of course, common areas. We're looking at adding probably 18 to 20 classrooms there with this project. It'd probably be an additional 45,000 square feet there. And also, we would have to make some extra parking on some land that we own there. And that's what we're looking at in terms of this project. So I will be quiet, and let's go ahead and proceed forward with the hearing.
All right, the Greater Clerk's required to hold a public hearing on the lease and additional appropriation. If you desire to comment, when I open the public hearing for comments, you should do the following. Raise your hand when you're recognized, come forward, give your name and give us your address, please, if you would, then provide your comments. And again, if you hear others saying basically the same thing, you can choose to come back up and reiterate, or you can bow out. So at this time, I would like to bring up Matt. Yeah,
We'll be first.
Okay, Matt from Steve will come up and give us our financial rundown.
Good evening, Matt Shoemaker from Stiefel. Great to see you all again. So tonight, I'm going to walk through the legal parameters of the bond issue. While the resolution is not in front of you tonight, we always like to do this at the first meeting. In case there are any questions, we can answer those questions here tonight. So as we go to the next page, so the legal parameters, the par amount of the bonds, this is a maximum not to exceed number, listed at $50 million. Estimated maximum interest rate is at 7%. We've been through this enough now to say that this is a conservative number. If you were doing this bond issue today, you'd be probably under 4%. But we've had rates way higher, way lower over the last couple of years. Not exactly sure where it's going to go in the future, so we're building in some conservatism into that number. We hope that if these bonds are ultimately issued, that is issued at a much lower interest rate. But based on a $50 million borrowing at 7%, the estimated total interest cost is listed at $43,301,145. Again, we would hope this number would ultimately be significantly less than that, but these are worst case financial parameters that we're presenting tonight. Maximum annual lease payment is listed at $15 million. That's the maximum payment that you can pay in any 1 year to repay this debt. The current 2025 budget year debt service levy is $33,217,421. That equates to a debt service tax rate of 0.6874, or almost 69 cents per $100 of assessed value. The current estimate, as we sit here today, for next year's debt service levy is $35,387,254. That is estimated to equate to roughly a 69, almost 70 cent tax rate. Maximum tax rate impact, we've talked about this a lot in the past. It's listed at 31 cents. That's purely a formula. It takes $30 million, the maximum annual payment. It divides it by your current assessed value. Doesn't take into account future assessed value growth. Doesn't take into account if the payment ends up being less. And doesn't take into account your outstanding bonds paying off. We typically would include a net tax rate impact. There were significant changes due to Senate Enrolled Act 1, so that actual tax rate impact is just too early to know right now. What we do know, and Mark spoke to this, is Policy Analytics has done a report for you guys. It's looked at a parcel by parcel analysis. We know that the typical homeowner in the school district's boundaries is at their tax caps. As a reminder, a homeowner can pay no more than 1% of their gross assessed value. So for this project moving forward, if the majority of people are already at their tax caps, they're not going to see their tax liability increase per this project. So I did want to make that point. Last two pieces of information that we have to list is the school corporation's max annual payments as a percent of NAV. That's at 9.15%, and then the direct and overlapping debt. That's the school corporation's debt, and then all of the other debt that would go into the taxpayer's tax bill. as a percent of the NAV is at 10.12%. Again, happy to answer any questions that the board has, but certainly appreciate you having me here tonight.
Board? I appreciate the information. Give it to the worst case scenario. I appreciate, want to see it coming, and that's not too bad. Okay, at this point, we will bring up Thomas Peterson, and he will guide us through this.
Matt, quick before Tom starts. How does this compare to the previous projects we've done in terms of what you just presented? It really is no different than what we've done the last 5 years, correct?
Yeah, so you've had the rolling 5-year plan, you've laid that out, we've had projected levies based on that 5-year plan the entire time. Regardless of what Senate Bill 1 ends up doing to, or does not do to the tax rate in the future, what you're asking for here tonight has been laid out in that 5-year plan. You're not asking for the levies that you've already shown and projected to the community. You're not asking for more dollars. We're just still waiting on the final, interpretation of Senate Bill 1. We've had it for several weeks now, the actual language. We just don't, and we haven't heard from the lawmakers on exactly how it's going to be interpreted and ultimately impacts the corporation. But to your point, Mark, yeah, you're not asking for more money as part of this project beyond what you've already laid out to the public many, many times.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you.
Are you done? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
He's done this to me before. Whenever you start a project that is going to need financing, it's required that the school board conduct 2 public hearings concerning these financial parameters and also what is included in the project. Tonight is the first hearing. The second hearing, which the notice has already been published, is for on the 27th, the meeting that night. There will also be the other standard included topics such as the actual project approval called the 1028 and the debt instrument, which this will be done pursuant to a lease with the building corporation. For those of you who are not as familiar with that, in the state of Indiana, bonds are generally done by a building corporation that is created solely for the purpose of doing this financing, has no other activities. They will then own the building technically because they have a lease with the school that the school has sole occupancy of the building, and then your lease rentals magically get reduced down to what the debt service on the bond is plus the trustee fees. So it's a mechanism that the Indiana Supreme Court has approved for financing these larger construction projects. And again, this is what we've successfully used for many of the prior bond issues and is used throughout the state of Indiana. So tonight is the first of 2 preliminary determination hearings. And Mr. President, if you would like to state the procedures that you have there as to what you will let anyone about to speak, now would be an appropriate time, and then we'll open the hearing if there's anybody who would like to ask a question or make a comment.
Certainly. At this time, if you'd like to make a comment, if you'd like to raise your hand, I will recognize you. You can please come forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please, and just provide your comments.
I got a loud voice, I don't need podium.
Okay, sir, I need you to, I know you don't, I appreciate it, but I gotta have, it's just part of running the hearing. It's got to be recorded.
Yeah,
So, I apologize. But also,
You're not as old as I am, I can tell.
hey, I appreciate you, trust me. But like I said, just state your name and where your address is.
My name is Tom Yingling, Y-I-N-G-L-I-N-G, and I live at 5509 Scarlet Oak Road, Jefferson. I didn't know what to expect when I came to this meeting. The only thing in the back of my mind was Sellersburg tried to pass a 44% increase in property taxes, and it got voted down by 93% of the population. And I didn't know if you all were trying to do the same thing. And so I appreciate the superintendent's comments that my taxes aren't going to go up anymore because of this project. They seem to go up every year, $100, $200 a year, and I don't know why. All that stuff they give you, I don't understand. But I'm glad to hear that my taxes, my property taxes won't go up in this election. And from what I can tell, we did a good job. So that's all I have to say.
Tom, thank you, sir. I really appreciate you, sir. Very much.
And I'm really loud.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much. Would anyone else care to comment? Yes, sir. Come on up to the podium.
I'm not as old as him.
He's my neighbor. I didn't see him behind me.
Oh, that's tough getting Tom. My name's Darren Riggs. I live at 5606 Silk Tree Trail in Jeffersonville. I concur a lot with what Tom had to say. I didn't know what to expect when I came in here, but the Sellersburg thing has concerned me. But Mr. Superintendent, your history lesson was excellent. I've lived here about 6 or 7 years. I think the district's in excellent hands based on what I've heard tonight. Now, I did hear the phrase levy earlier. That concerns me. So I'll keep an eye on that. But just the idea that you guys are thinking forward and you're making plans, because this area is booming. It's unbelievable what's happened since I moved here 7 years ago. But as long as I can take your word that my taxes won't go up, and I'm like Tom, for some reason my taxes are going up, and some of the politicians want to blame the schools. I'll be honest with you, and it's concerning.
We're very aware.
Okay, I'm glad, because they're going up, and so anyway, that's why I attended tonight, but I appreciate it, and I think the school district is in excellent hands. Thank you.
Sir, I can speak to that. The tax rate's not changing, it's the assessed values that are changing. And therefore, that's why. So they're telling you your home is worth, it was worth $400,000 last year, and now it was $450,000. In a way, inside you go, yippee, but inside you go, oh man. So,
And that makes a lot of sense what you're saying, because my property value has just went through the roof. And part of it is because of the excellent schools out here. So,
I agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Would there be anyone else that cares to speak? All right, if no one else desires to speak, I will declare this hearing closed.
Mr. President, you have before you 2 resolutions, and in normal fashion, if you would like to adopt them with one motion and second, that is acceptable. First resolution approves the format of the amendment to lease, which will be subject to part of the public hearing on the meeting of the 27th. This is the same standard format that we've used in at least the last 5 financings, so there's nothing new, no new roadwork being made there. The second is a resolution to approve any reimbursements. Once you get started with a project, some things may need to get paid at that time before bonds are issued. Issuing bonds, the timing of it is something we rely on the folks from Stiefel. And the board, and another thing that folks may not realize, the board approves pretty much borrowing as needed rather than borrowing the full amount up front. And that's one reason why Matt was able to say we're expecting the interest cost to go much lower. If you're going to need to spend half of the project cost in the first year and half in the second year, the only reason that you would borrow all of it up front is if you really expect interest rates to go skipping up higher. And some years that's made sense. When we had some years where the net interest cost was under 3%, that was crazy. And nobody could necessarily guarantee it still would be. And so at those times we did, as rates have gone up, the strategy has been to borrow what's needed in the near future and then borrow again, which would save significant interest costs. costs of not having money. And you think, well, gee, if you have the money, we can invest it. Well, the federal government takes all the fun out of that. And if you do invest it, you have to give to them anything that you make above the rate that you're paying. So there is no advantage to being able to use a fund or what we call arbitrage. And there's nothing in it for the school. So borrowing, the strategy that we've been using the last few years as rates have gone up, has been to borrow as needed on that. So an example of that, at the new middle school, we're looking to borrow 30 million. Is that the right number? 30 million out of a much larger approved amount, because that's what we're going to need to get the base materials going, to order steel, to order all those fun things that keep going, all the various elements that keep going up in price. But there's no reason for you to have the money for carpet in the first year. So your strategy has, again, saved significant interest costs on these projects. So the two resolutions are to approve the form of the amendment to lease and the reimbursement resolution, which would allow you to reimburse the school for any expenses they might incur prior to the issuance of the bonds. And I would recommend approval.
Okay. Board, I'll move we approve the resolution for the amendment to the lease and reimbursement in the same. Perkins, second. Are there any questions or comments from Mr. Peters? Thank you, quite a good job. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining. All right,
I will see you in 2 weeks.
we'll be here in 2 weeks.
All right, resolution of supplemental payment. Kelly, how are you?
I'm doing well, how are you?
Good.
How are you?
The supplemental pay presented is to allow payments to the teachers listed for completing the duties outlined in the attached document. These payments have been discussed with City of Pierce GCCS.
Board, do I have a motion for the approval of supplemental?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Freeman. Are there any questions or comments from yourself? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstaining? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. One presentation. MOU between Maryhurst and GCCS.
Good evening, Board. As you know, we take great pride in being a data-driven district, and over the past few years, we have really recognized through our work that our very young students in the expansion of our preschool come to us with significant needs, specifically in behavior and just being able to adapt and conform to standing in line, being patient, and being in a more institutional type environment, because they lacked, these children that have just entered were born during COVID, and we know that that was a difficult time for everyone. But we also believe strongly that the best intervention has to start early. We have amazing programs in our district. We've had Quarter Porter program for years for our middle and high school students, but we really began to see a significant need to help manage and intervene early to teach children how to behave so then they can enter the general education setting and be successful academically. But if we try to just put them in and follow all of the structure that is required, then they began to push back, and we're seeing behaviors that we just need to help them and support their families. So we've had lots of dialogue about this, for several years in our district. There is really not another program specifically like this. This is not a special ed program because, again, these are very young students, and oftentimes they developmentally are not ready to be, they have not been evaluated, are ready to be evaluated. But the matter is still at hand that we need to help them learn how to behave. And to expect them to come in for 7.5 hours is a lot. So we began to dig in and do our research. And as you know, in the consent agenda, you approved Centerstone. And so we have support for students already with a licensed therapist and an FSA in our schools. But we felt like if we wanted to do this well, we really need to have just one organization that is really tied specifically to this program that is working hand in hand with the teachers, our teacher in that particular program as we build it as we go. So we talked with Mary Hurst, and they are in Louisville, and have recommended, they have programs similar to this in Louisville, but we want students to be able to come in and have that therapy that's needed, the parents have access to that, be able to give wraparound services to help get our students successful, and ultimately just interact in the classroom as they appear to be ready. So Mary Hurst Mr. Lawfer and I worked with them, and we agreed that we would like to have one clinical therapist and a position that they call a community support associate, which is essentially a person who acts as a paraprofessional, but they have gotten intensive training in behavior. And so we would like to have these people on hand in that program. The key components would be emotional well-being focus, behavioral progress monitoring, family engagement, therapeutic support, the support associate, and then a transition readiness. And the goal of the program is to reduce those behaviors so ultimately they can go back into the general setting and be successful. And on the flip side of that, it also takes that stress and tension off of a classroom teacher who might have 28 other students who need her attention or his attention when we're trying to teach academics. And so it really is a win-win. We are better preparing our students. We have the resources on hand. Their contract actually calls for 240 days, but we would only be invoiced for the number of days because obviously we have 180 school days. But we also realize that there may be some needs for extended school year or jump start kind of thing, both with the families and the students to help prepare them. But they just had that buffer in our contract for that purpose. So we will utilize grant funding to help offset these expenses, but we do feel like it is an investment that we need to help support the district because there would be students, we already know from our preschools, students who could benefit from this and are beginning those conversations now.
All right. Board, do I have a motion for that approval of the MOUs between Mary Hurst and Fair Park High School? Thank you, Mr. Stain. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Perkins. Any questions or comments? Ms. Crump, was this something you asked about?
Yes.
Okay, you're good?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Okay, okay, we've got a motion and a second. All right, please.
This is going to be one classroom, right?
First, yes.
At start, yes. And students will go to that classroom and get these services. Now, there's a clinical therapist and a community support associate. Is there also a classroom teacher?
Yes, they will work side by side with the classroom teacher, as well as one of our special ed supervisors, Ms. Sibley. And we're very excited to have her in that role. And we know that there's going to need to be some training on many levels before we start. And there is a similar program up north, but theirs is specifically special ed. Our hope is that we can help support students so that they can be successful without having to go through an evaluative process and be identified. But it could come down to a point where some of them are identified, but it's really an intensive intervention for early learners.
And this program is going to be at night?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I can tell you from when I was at the alternative school, the principal there, and that's been years ago, but the average age of discouraged learners, let's say, just continued to go down. And finally, they were trying to send me elementary school kiddos to a middle school and high school setting, and it was kind of a runaway train. So I'm really excited for this. So
or back then, kindergarten, that they were already behind. And so the sooner that we can start to catch them up, and now we have preschools with our 3-year-olds in them, and sometimes with developmental delays, they just are not ready. They've learned, but they still have some behavioral types of things that we need to get shored up. So we're excited about this. We have a lot of work to do, but we know that we're going to come up with a great plan and program for our students.
Okay. Any other?
And Mary Hurst has great credentials.
Yes.
I want them to, and very pleased.
We wanted them, we knew with Centerstone, they're so far reaching that we wanted this to be a dedicated therapist, because we all know, those of you that have been educators, that if you get a certain resource in the building and all of a sudden somebody's out, well then we're pulling that person to come and help over here, and so we wanted to have that dedicated support for this.
Great.
Anyone else?
And just back to my question previously, was if it was a success, is it something that we might see at some of our other schools?
Well, it is, going into this, it is the most intensive interventions. And so most of our students don't need that intensive an environment. So we feel like this probably, based upon our data from our very needy students now, that having this one program would be sufficient for the level of service and support that it's going to provide. Because our hope is once, if they are a Pike student, that they would remain there, but eventually, as they progress up through the grades, that they may go back to their home setting.
But it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility that if we see a lot of success, that we may mimic this somewhere else in the district, because it is a growing issue with the early
It is. I was just sitting in a webinar the other day, and there's so much just with technology and screen time that little babies are exposed to, and just our society with the exposure to drugs and babies addicted to drugs, and those are everlasting effects, and we see them, we feel them, and it takes a lot of work and support to help them understand better how to be aware of it and better self-regulate.
Yeah, and I love the family support piece too. I think that's very important too, so.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, all those in favor of the approval of the MOU with Mary Hurst and Greater Park Schools, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Next, the purchase agreements with Solution Tree Inc. for Providence High School, okay?
Yes, and Chelsea, I just, for your understanding, as the federal grants director, I have to be the program channel for our equitable share, which each of our private schools in the area receive a portion of that for Title I, Title II, and Title IV. So this is a contract anytime they want to utilize their funding at their school, it has to come through me and ultimately our board to approve it for those management pieces with federal grant guidelines. This is a grant for Providence High School to hire Solution Tree to come in and do some PLC work with their building. The cost of it is $7,100, and so I will, once it's approved, I will process that through our department and get that taken care of for them.
We're going to have a motion for that approval.
Yes, I make that motion.
Okay. Second. Thank you, Mr. Crump. Any questions or comments? Okay, all those who are in favor of this purchase agreement with Solution Tree for Providence High School, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstained. All right. Science.
Okay, this is, as you know, we are so excited to start our dual language immersion program at Parkwood. And we have, I believe the last number was 39 folks signed up. So our intent was to start with one classroom, but it is edging on up there. We do have The bulk of those families that have signed up for that are of Spanish-speaking descent. So our hope is to have it 50-50, but there has been a huge interest in that. So we are so excited. We are so excited about that. And so Taju is the company that has helped us kind of do the research and the planning to help launch this and go visit other programs to make sure that we were running the right model for us and our community. And so you've heard a lot about the science of reading, and this is actually professional development that couples dual language with the science of reading. And what does that look like for our bilingual learners or dual language learners? So this ultimately is a 5-day training that would expand over 2 school years. We have options of doing some full days, some half days virtual trainings that we can do and sort of intersperse that along as we feel like it is appropriate. But we are actually paying for this with our Clarksville redevelopment funding that they have provided to us to help support economic development, which we started this a long time ago on bilingual learners and developing bilingual workers in the workforce. So that will pay for this, and we're excited to couple the science of reading with dual language.
Okay, great. Board, do I have a motion for the approval?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mr. Jones. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Steen. Any questions or comments? Very excited about you. And I'd like to shout out to Clarksville Redevelopment for funding that. It's really getting this thing going. So, any other comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained. Okay, next we have contract agreement for core construction for the Pleasant Bridge.
Mr. President, in your board packets was the master agreement for the construction management team, which is recommended to be core. We tasked them to solicit bids to tear down Pleasant Bridge. As Superintendent clearly explained the reason why, and it will be an extension of our education system, which we do feel extracurricular is very important in that. And so at Charlestown High School, that space will be used in that for our future soccer, as approved in the 5-year plan. So tonight, I am asking the board, now what we had on there was the master contract. Mr. Detmar's in the asking to explain to you that's the master contract was signed as being the CM. And so they had an estimated price of $400,000 on there, so you're going to be approving them as the CM, as well as they have received bids, and so we're able to put that up there so you can see what the price would really be. They started off with an estimated cost of $400,000, they went too far off, it's $451,000. This was already planned in the 23 bond, the land clearing for that area. So there's no increase anywhere, I'm not asking for any more money, I already have it ready to go. So you're also approving us to demolish that building. So I recommend the board approve this contract. Now, Mr. Buckwalter, you have $461 contract in there, and I will print out for you to sign the CM contract.
Okay, you have to do that. Board, going to have a motion for that approval.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Freeman. I would second that. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board comments, we'll go ahead and do the start. Mr. Jones?
Not a whole lot, thanks to everybody that presented tonight.
All right, Mr. Cronin?
Yeah, lots of exciting things happening. I just wanted to give a shout out to our Jeff High School Music Department. They won the Total Department Homes Award this year, which is, I think, they were one of 22 schools in the whole state that got that. So congrats to those kiddos and to the staff.
So congratulate all of our seniors this year. Wish them the best as they move on to the next phase of their life. I have a senior this year, granddaughter, graduated from Charlestown High School. So there you go. There you go.
Mr. Freeman?
Yeah, belated Happy Mother's Day to everybody, because you know, we haven't been here for a while, so I think it's but also congratulations to all the seniors. Let this be the beginning, not the end.
I appreciate the comments from the two gentlemen tonight, and I think they both left, but it really is nice and rewarding to hear somebody tell you that you're doing a good job. And I certainly appreciate it, because we get told we're not doing a good job quite often.
All the time.
All the time. It's very nice.
Well, I took a couple things down, try to be quick. I have heard and seen in social media beating us to death. And only a few people, it's not a crowd, it's not, we're not getting over it, it's not like that, but they're not, they're tad malicious, you know, and I'm not a fan of that. Everything we've done, we have data. I mean, and we do that. I mean, it's classroom to facilities. It's about data-driven decisions, and that's what this has been about. The superintendent has worked extremely hard to make sure that we have that support. And we got those things. We did the research. We had engineering firms come and go through this, and sure, we paid for it, but we paid good engineering firms. It was not like we were just willy-nilly in this. It was kind of crazy. You know, the facility growth is outrageous, regardless of what people might tell you. I work a lot with wastewater here in Jeffersonville, and where the footprints of neighborhoods between here and Charlestown are outrageous. You're driving by fields, you don't know, but they've already plotted, been approved to have homes there. If we don't stay ahead of this curve, we're going to have modular units somewhere. And we decided long ago we're not doing that. And so, I mean, that's just, you know, it's huge. And these decisions are not for 4 or 5 years. These are generational decisions. These are going to affect many generations. I think with the new materials and things that we have today, these schools will last longer than 70 years. And we'll stay ahead of them. And I think whoever comes in after Mr. Walker, whoever comes in after this board, will do just that. And I'm very, very passionate about this. And I'm glad that we were able to make this work. And I think there's no one on this board that wouldn't say it was worth all the craziness that you want to hear. When you get beat up out at a social event by somebody that doesn't know what they're talking about, you know, 20 years ago, well, would have been a good thing for me. But I'm mellow. I am a little joker. So, nevertheless, I just want to thank you all for participating in this. So I apologize for taking any of your thunder.
Oh, no, I appreciate your comments because, I mean, I talked about Charlestown in terms of the growth and a little bit on Charlestown Pike, but when you look at just from the roundabouts out to Charlestown, you're talking about in the realm of 4,500 new homes and apartments. I mean, think about that, the number of kids, you know, just everything. And Mr. Buckle was right, we got to try to stay ahead of that, you know. And I appreciate them coming and speaking about their concern with what happened over to our neighbors to the west, Silver Creek. One of the reasons that we're not doing a referendum is because we don't want to add additional taxes to the taxpayer. And a referendum does that. It goes outside the tax cap. So like Matt talked about being at 1%, you know, you're paying 1% of that, and that's your circuit breaker tax cap. Well, if you do a referendum, you know, like what Silver Creek was going to do, I believe it was 38 cents. Well, that's 38 cents on top of that 1% that you're going to pay. We're doing the exact opposite. We're trying to make sure we don't do that to people, that we still get these projects done, and we don't add additional taxes to anyone. And I think we've proven that we can do a good job with it over the last 5 or 6 years. You know, and we're going to try to keep going, you know, and keep staying ahead of the curve in terms of what's going on in this area. And also, I look forward to graduation coming fast. That means I'm going to shake 800 hands.
I'm glad we start with New Orleans. What are there, 60 graduates? Yeah, it's a more about it.
Jeff has a day and a half, okay?
It is. All right, board, I need a motion for adjournment.
We adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. perfect, so I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Mustaney. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.